Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I am Dr. Siti Mazidah from University Brunei Darussalam. First of all, I would like to convey my thanks to the organizer for inviting a number of academics from University Brunei Darussalam to present our work at this seminar. So this paper, #ArtCovidBN on Instagram, capturing COVID-19's new normal via creative artwork, is a chapter in a forthcoming book edited by Professor Stanley Brown and Donna Gilbreth, titled COVID-19 and an Emerging World of Ad Hoc Geographies. So it was written post first wave of COVID-19 in Brunei. At that time, Brunei was in the de-escalation stage and life was back to pre-COVID-19 time. So this paper reflected the everyday life and concerns during the first wave, which were different from the concerns in the current second wave of COVID-19. If you are interested to read this paper, please feel free to email me. I'll be delighted to share it with you. So social media platforms, as observed, have performed a crucial part in everyday life of the global population during this pandemic. Social media sites were inundated with COVID-19 related content. Instagram and Twitter were used to spread awareness of the pandemic's risks and offered insights into the experiences and struggles the public had due to the abrupt changes in their everyday life. Specific to COVID-19 impacts in Brunei Darussalam, we observe heightened social participation amongst the artists in the country via their artwork to express themselves, to increase awareness on health risks, to convey their appreciation to the frontliners, to raise funds for tackling the crisis, and to share contextualized new normals such as new educational arrangement and social distancing measures. We were interested in these creative contents that allow for the local community's experiences to be captured, realizing the abilities of the artists to create a presentation via their artwork, and working within this context of growing production and circulation of COVID-19 related creative content on social media. This chapter actually aims to capture the locals' community lived experiences during COVID-19 through the eyes and the voices of the artists in the country. We bring forth the role of the artist in circulating COVID-19 narratives, key concerns, localized responses to a global pandemic, and the shared lived experiences, including coping mechanisms and the annoyance and resistance of individuals and communities in Brunei Darussalam via creative COVID-19 artwork. So the findings for this chapter were drawn from the fieldwork conducted by the authors between May to December 2020 on Bruneian artists and social media use during the COVID-19 pandemic. Before the main fieldwork, we conducted an initial observation on COVID-19 related social media contents. COVID-19 related discussion on the local subreddit community r/Brunei and concerns shared by the government agencies and the public in the daily press conferences held in the country since March 2020 were also conducted. Posts on Instagram tagged with #ArtCovidBN and other relevant hashtags were analyzed to make sense of the available COVID-19 discourses on media platforms. The findings from these initial observations were then used to guide the main fieldwork. Using qualitative content analysis, QCA, of images and videos on Instagram, tagged with localized and contextualized #ArtCovidBN, and supplemented with personal communication with selected artists, we examine how local artists individually and collectively are working to portray COVID-19 lived experiences during the pandemic. We selected #ArtCovidBN as a site of analysis due to the active and collective use of this hashtag by the local artists to showcase and express their COVID-19 related lived experiences and concerns through the art. Throughout the fieldwork, 9 months, we analyzed over 500 posts tagged with #ArtCovidBN. We have acquired many COVID-19 related concerns and new practices such as social distancing, mental health and depression, school closure, business closure, unemployment, staying negative, staying safe, staying at home challenge, travel restrictions, and new ways of practicing social cultural events. So what was apparent in the social media content, specifically those tagged with #ArtCovidBN, were the portrayal of lived everyday experiences and concerns of the public at different phases of the pandemic. We managed to get 3 phases. Phase 1, familiarization of the new normal, the public familiarizing themselves with the new normal during the first few months into the pandemic. Phase 2, managing and coping with the new normal. It's when the public managed the new normal during the de-escalation period. And the third phase is the lives of the public normalizing the new normal. In the first phase, at this time in point, the public grappled with uncertainties and the fear of the unknown. The creatives' artwork reflected the concerns or lack of concerns among the public, and the public or the government struggle in keeping safe and ensuring social distancing measures to be adhered to. Narratives of uncertainties and fear were evident in the creative artwork, transpired through humor, comics, and dark concepts. Apart from the uncertainties and fear, human responsibility of one's own personal hygiene and social distancing is emphasized. Madison's artwork here shows the use of a horror comic concept to remind the public to wash their hands, to stay at home, to have proper coughing etiquette, and keeping physical distance. Individual and collective responsibilities to curb COVID-19 spread are stressed in the creative artwork. They reveal the familiarization of the new normal during this phase: social distancing, personal hygiene, and new social responsibility. It is important to note that despite the impacts of COVID-19 on the global scale, Brunei Darussalam's COVID-19 situation was unlike most countries. Due to the relatively low number of infected cases and the control situation, the public managed to cope with the new normal reasonably well, with only a few dissatisfaction and resistant cases. In this phase, the creatives continue to portray social distancing and personal hygiene, including mask wearing, to remind the public of their importance in everyday life during this pandemic. Chuboy Art, the creator of these two cartoons, have been offering different perspectives and angles of the country's local situation. During this back to school de-escalation stage, he regularly depicts classroom environments using cartoon concepts. He uses witty and light-hearted artwork to raise public awareness on COVID-19. As seen here, he drew two students wearing both headgear and masks, apologies for this, hat and masks for complete protection, and one of them is wearing a Darth Vader helmet or headgear. The Darth Vader mask reference in his photo could indicate that the creator is a fan of Star Wars movie franchise, and using a figure in the movie to emphasize that a Darth Vader will always wear his mask for complete protection. So this could act as a reminder to keep oneself protected. Wearing Darth Vader headgear could also indicate the shortage of facial masks in the country during that time, and that the student had no choice but to use whatever mask he could get to protect himself. The use of popular culture as a reference here injects humor into what could be seen as a seriously taken social practice and the relatability of wearing headgear for complete protection for Star Wars fans. Another real classroom scene is portrayed here. With masks, teachers and students experience a communication problem, which is aptly portrayed by this cartoon. Eid Mubarak celebration in 2020 was an excellent example of how a social culture and religious event had been transformed by this measure, social distancing measure. Eid, which was commonly celebrated with immediate and extended family members, was restricted to close family members. The public was reminded to avoid the practice of handshaking and hugging when visiting family members. So these two cartoons illustrate the socially distant Eid celebration during COVID-19. The artist uses drive-through Eid with the text, "How do you get Eid pocket money from a drive-through? Kalau drive-through ni duitnya macam mana?" And virtual Eid with the text, "Please help yourself to the food to bah menjamah dah," to exemplify the socially distant Eid celebration during the pandemic. Eid celebration globally is also affected, pointing to the geographies of everyday lives that are reshaped by this pandemic. Global Muslim adaptation of to the Eid new normal were also captured and accessible on social media via Covid hashtags such as #Covid, #Covid Raya, and Covid 2020, which could very well provide a picture of the current progress, severity, and responses to COVID-19 in different countries. And the third phase, in this normalizing the new normal phase, creative works continue to depict social distancing and personal hygiene, as demonstrated previously, while portraying the public easing into new social practices such as the COVID-19 safe reading ceremonies and retaining blended learning as the main teaching and learning approach. With limited global mobilities due to the international border closure, tourism is not in the picture for the time being. Local creatives have depicted these limited mobilities we are currently experiencing via local tourism promotion, Kenali Negara Kita, KNK, Know Our Country. In this phase, we have observed the slowing down of the creative illustrations of COVID-19 concerns and impacts on Instagram via the hashtag @COVIDBN. So additionally, our analysis of individual artists' Instagram profile has shown that COVID-19 related daily activities, struggles, and new social practices are were no longer portrayed during that time, post-COVID-19 first wave in Brunei. So as shared through these three pandemic phases, what was depicted by the local artists via this hashtag @COVIDBN have revealed the local lived experiences and struggles during the pandemic. They provide us with the contextualized sociocultural configurations through the lens of the artist. The COVID-19 content and images and hashtag combined, produced and circulated on Instagram as an effective practice could provide scholars with the practical and performative aspects of everyday life. And it could also offer a site to analyze the new microgeographies of the population. So at the meso and macro scale, social media has become a conduit to circulate pandemic-related contents from everyday lives to communicating health information and risk communication. These new geographies at different scales offer a rethinking of new individual and social practices beyond COVID-19. So in this case, creative arts and COVID-19 can be utilized as a site of geographical inquiry to further our analysis of the transformation of the local and global communities beyond this COVID-19 pandemic. So this is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions regarding this paper or chapter, feel free to ask your questions after this session. Thank you so much.